The air outside the preschool was crisp, tinged with the earthy scent of fallen leaves as I signed the pickup sheet for my son Milo. His small hand tugged at mine, his voice bubbling with excitement. "Mommy, did you bring my shark gummies today?" he asked, his blue eyes wide and trusting, oblivious to the weight I carried in my chest. I forced a smile, ruffling his sandy hair. "Not today, buddy. How about we grab some ice cream instead?" He grinned, and for a moment the world felt steady, until my phone buzzed in my coat pocket. I pulled it out, expecting a text from my husband Nils about dinner plans or his usual late-night work excuse. Instead, the words on the screen hit me like a fist to the gut. "Moving to Spain with Sasha. Transferred our savings to my account. Good luck with the rent." My breath caught, the pickup sheet slipping from my fingers to flutter onto the damp pavement. I stared at the message, the letters blurring as my mind scrambled to make sense of them. Sasha, his assistant, the woman with the sharp laugh and sharper heels who'd lingered too long at last year's office party. Thane. Our savings. Gone. "Mommy." Milo's voice snapped me back, his little fingers squeezing mine. "Can we go now?" I nodded, swallowing the panic clawing up my throat, and typed a reply with shaking hands. "Thanks for the heads up." 3 words, cold and hollow, masking the storm raging inside me. I couldn't let Milo see it, not yet. I grabbed his backpack, slung it over my shoulder, and led him to the car, my steps mechanical, my mind screaming. I'm Cameron, 36 years old, mother to 4-year-old Milo, and apparently the soon-to-be ex-wife of Nils Berger, who just dismantled our life with a single text. 8 years of marriage, of careful budgeting and quiet dreams, reduced to ashes in seconds. The Chicago wind whipped around us as I buckled Milo into his car seat, his chatter about dinosaurs fading into a dull hum. Our apartment's rent, $2,400, was due in 4 days. Our savings, the $38,000 we'd built for Milo's future for emergencies for us, it was in Nils's hands now, halfway across the world. "Daddy coming home tonight?" Milo asked as I slid into the driver's seat, his voice small but hopeful. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles whitening. "He's on a trip, sweetie," I said, the lie bitter on my tongue. "We'll have pizza instead, okay?" He cheered, and I started the car, the engine's rumble a weak cover for the chaos in my head. At home, I parked Milo in front of his favorite cartoon, the bright colors and silly voices a temporary shield. I grabbed my laptop, hands trembling as I logged into our joint savings account. The balance glared back at me, $0. Transaction history showed it, $38,000 transferred yesterday to an account I didn't recognize, one with only Nils's name. My stomach churned. I checked our checking account next, praying he'd left something. $412.63. Enough for a week of groceries, maybe, but not the rent, not a life. The phone rang, shattering the silence. Nils's mother, Ingrid, her name flashing like a warning. I answered, bracing myself. "Cameron, what have you done?" Her voice was ice, cutting through the line. "Nils says you've threatened to keep Milo from him unless he pays you more. He's devastated." I blinked, the words not registering. "What?" "Ingrid, he just told me he's moved to Spain with Sasha. He took our savings, everything. I didn't threaten anyone." "Don't lie to me," she snapped. He showed me the texts. "You've been hounding him for money, guilting him about Milo. I didn't raise my son to be bullied like this." Texts? My head spun. "I didn't send anything like that." "He's lying, Ingrid. He's the one who—" "Enough," she cut me off. "You've always been too soft with Milo, too needy with Nils. No wonder he left." The line went dead, leaving me staring at the screen, a sick realization sinking in. Nils wasn't just abandoning us. He was rewriting the story, painting me as the villain to justify his betrayal. I sank onto the couch, Milo's laughter from the TV a stark contrast to the void opening inside me. This wasn't just about money or a roof over our heads. It was about trust, shredded and discarded, and a fight I hadn't asked for. But I'd fight, for Milo, for the truth, for the life Nils thought he could steal. He'd see soon enough, I wasn't the one who'd break. The living room was a haze of cartoon colors and Milo's giggles, but I couldn't hear any of it. Not really. My laptop sat open on the coffee table, the empty bank account glaring back at me like a wound I couldn't stop probing. $412.63 in checking, nothing in savings, and rent looming like a guillotine. Nils's text replayed in my mind, each word a fresh cut. Moving to Spain with Sasha. Transferred our savings. Good luck. And then Ingrid's voice, sharp and accusing. You've threatened to keep Milo from him. The lies stacked up, a wall between me and the life I'd known, and I was trapped on the wrong side. Milo bounced on the couch beside me, his small hands clutching a plastic dinosaur. Mommy, look. T-Rex is gonna eat the pizza, he said, waving the toy in front of my face. I forced a laugh, the sound hollow even to my own ears. Better save some for us, huh? I ruffled his hair, my fingers lingering there, grounding me. He was the only thing that made sense right now, the only piece of this mess I could hold on to. I grabbed my phone, scrolling back to Nils's message. No follow-up, no explanation, just those cold, final words. My thumb hovered over his number, the urge to call him burning in my chest. What would I even say? Come back? Give me my money? Tell your mom the truth? None of it would matter. He was gone, probably sipping wine with Sasha in some Spanish villa, laughing at how easy it had been to unravel me. I set the phone down, my hands trembling. Calling wouldn't fix this. I needed to move, to act, to keep us from drowning. Pizza delivery came an hour later, a greasy lifeline I paid for with cash from my wallet, $18 down, $394 left in the account. Milo dug in, sauce smearing his cheeks, while I picked at a slice, my appetite lost to the churn in my stomach. After he was asleep, curled up in his dinosaur pajamas, I sat at the kitchen table with a notepad and pen, the apartment silent except for the hum of the fridge. I wrote down what I knew: rent due in 4 days, $2,400. Bills, electric, water, internet, another $300. Milo's preschool fees, $500 a month. My freelance editing gig brought in $1,200 on a good month, but the next payment wasn't due for 2 weeks. The math didn't add up. We were sinking fast. I opened my laptop again, logging into the bank's website, hoping I'd missed something, a forgotten account, a miracle. Nothing. The joint savings was a ghost, the transfer timestamp mocking me. Yesterday, 2:43 p.m., while I'd been proofreading a manuscript and Milo had been painting at preschool. Nils had planned this, timed it perfectly. I checked my email next, searching for any sign, a goodbye, a justification. Instead, I found a notification from our landlord, Merrick. Rent reminder. Due April 8th, late fee after the 10th. 4 days. My chest tightened, a vice squeezing the air out of me. Ingrid's call gnawed at me, too. He showed me the texts. What texts? I hadn't sent anything beyond that sarcastic thanks for the heads up. Had he faked them, doctored something to turn his family against me? I pulled up our message history, scrolling back weeks. Nothing incriminating, just my usual check-ins, his vague replies about work. But then a memory flickered. Last month, when I'd asked about a $200 charge on our card, he'd snapped, said I was obsessed with control. Had he twisted that into his narrative, a seed for this lie? I stood, pacing the kitchen, the linoleum cold under my socks. The apartment felt smaller, the walls closing in with every step. Photos lined the shelf. Nils and me at our wedding on Lake Michigan, Milo's first birthday, a trip to the zoo. 8 years of memories now tainted. I stopped at one of Nils, his arm around me, his smile wide and warm. I'd fallen for that charm, the way he'd pursued me with handwritten notes and grand promises. We'd built this life together, or so I'd thought. Now I saw the cracks I'd ignored, the late nights, the unexplained expenses, the way he'd pull away when I asked too much. "Mommy." Milo's voice, sleepy and soft, drifted from his room. I dropped the photo and hurried to him, finding him sitting up in bed, his dinosaur clutched tight. I had a bad dream. "Where's Daddy?" I sat beside him, pulling him into my arms. "He's still on his trip, sweetie," I said, the lie easier this time. "But I'm here. Always." He nodded, snuggling closer, his warmth a balm against the cold inside me. Back in the kitchen, I stared at the notepad, the numbers blurring. I couldn't wait for Nils to fix this. He wouldn't. I'd have to do it myself for Milo. I wrote a new line: call clients tomorrow, push for early payment. Then another: talk to Merrick, buy time on rent. Small steps, but steps. Ingrid's words echoed, "You've always been too soft," but she was wrong. I wasn't soft. I was steel, forged in this betrayal, and I'd prove it. Nils thought he'd left me broken, but he'd see I'd rise and he'd fall. Morning crept in through the blinds, a pale gray light that did little to warm the chill in my bones. I'd barely slept, the couch my makeshift bed after hours of staring at the notepad, scribbling plans that felt more like prayers. Milo's soft snores drifted from his room, a fragile anchor in the storm Nils had left behind. My phone sat beside me, silent, no follow-up from him, no apology, just the ghost of that text, moving to Spain with Sasha. I didn't expect him to call, not really, but the silence stung all the same. I brewed coffee, the bitter aroma filling the kitchen as I replayed Ingrid's accusations. Threatened to keep Milo from him. The lie twisted in my gut, a poison I couldn't shake. Nils had turned his mother against me, maybe his whole family, with a story I hadn't even had the chance to defend myself against. I opened my laptop, pulling up our joint email account on a hunch. Nils had always been careless with passwords. There it was in his sent folder, a message to Ingrid dated 2 days ago. "Cameron's losing it, says I can't see Milo unless I pay her off. I'm done with her games." Attached was a screenshot, a fake text chain with my name, words I'd never written. "Give me $5,000 or forget seeing your son." My hands clenched around the mug, the heat searing my palms. He'd fabricated it, crudely too, the timestamps off, the tone nothing like me. But Ingrid had bought it, hook, line, and sinker. I saved the email, my jaw tight. Evidence if it came to that. Nils wasn't just running. He was building a case, a shield of lies to protect his new life. And I was the villain in his script. Milo padded into the kitchen, his dinosaur slippers scuffing the floor. "Mommy, can we have pancakes?" he asked, climbing onto a chair. His innocence cut through the fog in my head, a reminder of why I couldn't collapse. "Sure, buddy," I said, forcing a smile as I grabbed the mix from the pantry. I whisked batter, the rhythm steadying me, while he chattered about preschool, his friend Elias, the new blocks they'd gotten. I nodded, half listening, my mind racing. I had to call my clients today, beg for early payments. I had to talk to Merrick, our landlord, plead for a grace period. And I had to keep Milo from seeing the cracks widening beneath us. For breakfast, I dialed my main client, a small press called Lumine Books. The editor, Katrin, picked up, her voice warm but distracted. "Cameron, good to hear from you. How's the manuscript?" "Almost done," I lied, the pages still scattered on my desk. "Listen, Katrin, I hate to ask, but is there any chance you could pay early? I'm in a bind, family stuff. I'd owe you big." Pause, then a sigh. "Tight month here too, but I can push $600 through by tomorrow. Best I can do." "Thank you," I breathed, scribbling it down. $600 wasn't rent, but it was food, time, a lifeline. I called 2 more clients, $300 from one, a vague promise from another. Total $900 if they came through. Still miles from $2,400, but it was something. Next, Merrick. His gruff voice answered after 3 rings. "Yeah, Cameron, what's up?" "Hi, Merrick," I said, pacing the kitchen, Milo's cartoons a faint buzz in the background. "I need a favor. Rent's due in 4 days, but I'm short. Can I get an extension, just a week?" He grunted, the sound heavy with skepticism. "You're usually solid, Cam. What's going on?" "My husband," I stopped, the word bitter on my tongue. "He's gone. Took our savings. I'm figuring it out, I swear, but I need time." A long silence then, damn. "That's rough. 'Kay, 1 week, no late fee. But after that, I can't bend. You know how it is." "I know," I said, relief flooding me. "Thank you, Merrick. I'll make it work." I hung up, sinking into a chair. $900 in a week. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Milo toddled over, climbing into my lap. "Is Daddy coming back soon?" he asked, his voice small, his fingers tracing the edge of my sleeve. I hugged him tight, the lie heavier this time. "He's still away, sweetie. But we're okay, you and me." He nodded, trusting me, and I buried my face in his hair, the scent of syrup and shampoo steadying me. The phone buzzed again, Ingrid. I let it ring, her name a warning I couldn't face yet. She'd call me a liar, a manipulator, echoing Nils's twisted tale. I couldn't fight her now, not with Milo watching, not with rent looming. But the email burned in my mind, proof he'd set me up. I'd use it somehow when the time was right. I stood, lifting Milo with me. "Let's get you to preschool," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. I'd drop him off, then work, push through edits, chase more payments, build a wall between us and Nils's wreckage. He thought he'd left me helpless, but he didn't know me, not the me I was becoming. For Milo, I'd be steel, unbreakable, and Nils would pay for every lie he'd spun. Preschool drop-off was a blur of chattering kids and harried parents, Milo's hands slipping from mine as he ran to join his friends. I waved, my smile a mask that hid the storm brewing inside. Cold bit at my fingers as I walked back to the car, the weight of yesterday's discoveries pressing down. Nils's text, the emptied savings, Ingrid's venom, and that forged email. Each piece was a thread in a web he'd spun, and I was caught in it, scrambling to cut myself free. Back home, the apartment felt like a shell, quiet, hollow, a stranger's space. I brewed another pot of coffee, the gurgle of the machine filling the silence as I opened my laptop. The email from Nils to Ingrid stared back at me, a digital knife he'd plunged without a second thought. "Cameron's losing it. Says I can't see Milo unless I pay her off." The fake text screenshot attached was laughably clumsy, wrong font, mismatched timestamps, but it didn't matter. Ingrid believed it, and that was enough to turn her against me. I dug deeper, logging into our shared cloud storage. Nils had always been sloppy with tech, leaving traces he didn't think I'd find. There, in a folder labeled Work, I found it, a draft itinerary. Flights to Barcelona booked 3 weeks ago for him and Sasha. A rental agreement for a flat in Gracia, signed last month. My stomach twisted as I scrolled. Photos too, selfies of them at a cafe, her head on his shoulder, his smile wide and unburdened. They'd been planning this, living it while I'd been here, editing manuscripts and packing Milo's lunches, oblivious. The dates hit hardest. He'd booked the tickets the day after we'd sat together on this couch, planning Milo's birthday, Milo turning 5 next month, a party with balloons and cake. I'd suggested a zoo trip. Nils had nodded, said it sounded perfect. A lie, all of it, while he'd been plotting his escape with her. I slammed the laptop shut, my breath ragged, the coffee mug trembling in my hands. 8 years, and he played me like a fool. The phone rang, Ingrid again. I stared at it, her name a taunt, then answered, steeling myself. "What now, Ingrid?" "You've got some nerve," she snapped, her voice thick with disdain. "Nils just called, says you're harassing him, demanding money. How dare you drag Milo into this?" "Harassing him?" I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. "He's the one who emptied our savings and ran off with Sasha. I haven't even talked to him since his text." "Lies," she hissed. "He showed me more messages. Yesterday, you begging for cash, threatening to take Milo away. You're unhinged, Cameron." "Unhinged?" My voice rose, the anger spilling over. "He faked those, Ingrid. I've got proof, emails, itineraries. He's been planning this for weeks, and now he's framing me to look like the bad guy." "You expect me to believe that?" she said, her tone icy. "My son wouldn't do this. You drove him away, always nagging, always needy. Sasha's good for him, better than you ever were." The words cut deep, but I clenched my jaw, refusing to break. "Believe what you want," I said, my voice low. "But I'm not the one lying. Ask him about the $38,000 he stole. Ask him why he's hiding in Spain." I hung up before she could reply, my hands shaking as I dropped the phone. Her blind faith in Nils was a wall I couldn't crack, but it didn't matter. This wasn't about convincing her. It was about protecting Milo, keeping us afloat. I reopened the laptop, saving the itinerary and photos. Evidence, a growing pile I'd use when the time came. Clock ticked toward noon, my editing deadline looming. I pulled up the manuscript, forcing my eyes to focus on the words, but they swam. Nils's smile, Sasha's laugh, Ingrid's venom blurring the page. I typed anyway, each keystroke a defiance, a refusal to let him win. Katrin's $600 would hit tomorrow. Marek's extension bought me a week. I'd scrape by somehow. But the rent, the bills, Milo's preschool, it was a mountain I couldn't climb alone. I paused, staring at the screen, a new thought breaking through. Nils's job. He'd been a marketing exec at Vesper Media, pulling a steady salary. If he'd quit, they'd know, maybe even have a forwarding address. I grabbed my phone, dialing their HR line, my heart pounding. A woman answered, her voice clipped. "Vesper Media, how can I assist?" "Hi," I said, studying my breath. "I'm Cameron Berger, Nils Berger's wife. I need to confirm his employment status. Family emergency." Pause, then typing. "Nils Berger, he submitted his resignation 2 weeks ago, effective yesterday. Said he was relocating overseas. Left no contact info, I'm afraid." "Thanks," I muttered, hanging up. 2 weeks ago. He'd been winding down his life here while I'd been planning ours, blind to the end. I wrote it down, another thread in his web, another piece for my fight. Milo's pickup time neared, and I closed the laptop, the apartment's silence heavy. Nils thought he'd buried me, but he didn't know I'd claw my way out, for Milo, for me. Ingrid could cling to her lies, Sasha could have her victory, but I'd rise. And when I did, Nils would face the wreckage he'd left behind. Preschool parking lot buzzed with the chaos of pickup time. Kids shrieking, parents juggling bags and coats, the air thick with exhaust and laughter. I stood by the gate, my breath fogging in the cold, watching Milo race toward me with a grin, his backpack bouncing. "Mommy, I made a rocket today," he said, thrusting a crumpled paper tube into my hands. I knelt, pulling him into a hug, his warmth a lifeline against the chill seeping into my bones. "That's amazing, buddy," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. He didn't need to know how close we were to falling apart. Back home, I settled him with a snack, crackers and apple slices, the last of what we had, and opened my laptop. Katrin's $600 had hit, a small mercy in my account, now up to $1,012.63. It wasn't rent, but it was groceries, gas, a few more days of breathing room. I emailed 2 more clients, pushing for early payments, my fingers flying over the keys with a desperation I masked in polite words. Unexpected situation. Any chance you could expedite this month's invoice? I hit send, the silence that followed heavy with hope and dread. The apartment felt smaller every hour, the walls echoing Nils's absence. I'd found more in the cloud storage last night, bank statements he'd hidden showing withdrawals over months, $500 here, $1,000 there, funneled to an account I didn't recognize. He'd been siphoning our savings long before Spain, building his escape while I'd been cutting coupons and skipping dinners to stretch our budget. The betrayal wasn't just the text, it was a slow bleed, calculated and cruel. My phone buzzed, a new email popping up. Not a client, but our insurance company. Policy update. Nils Berger has removed himself from your joint health plan, effective immediately. Please contact us to adjust coverage. I stared at it, the words sinking in like stones. He'd been on my plan through my freelance work, a perk I'd fought to keep for us. Now, he'd cut himself loose, leaving me to shoulder Milo's coverage alone. Premium would jump, another $200 a month I didn't have. I added it to the notepad. Insurance, recalculate. Find cheaper plan? Mommy, can we play dinosaurs? Milo called from the living room, his voice pulling me back. I closed the laptop, forcing a smile as I joined him on the rug. We roared and stomped, his giggles filling the space, but my mind churned. Nils wasn't just gone. He was dismantling every safety net we'd built, piece by piece. The insurance, the savings, the lies to Ingrid, it was a war and I was unarmed. The phone rang mid-roar, an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered, bracing myself. Cameron Berger, a woman's voice, clipped and professional. This is Lena from First Trust Bank. We've flagged unusual activity on your joint credit card. Can you confirm a $3,000 charge in Barcelona yesterday? My stomach dropped. No, I said, my voice tight. That's not me. My husband, ex-husband, moved there. He's using it. She sighed, the sound crackling through the line. Since his name's on the account, it's authorized. You can dispute it, but it'll take time. I'd recommend closing the card. Do it, I said, my hand gripping the phone. Now. She walked me through the steps, the card canceled in minutes, but the damage was done. $3,000 deeper in debt, a hole I'd have to climb out of. I hung up, my head pounding. Nils wasn't just living his new life. He was funding it with mine. Milo tugged at my sleeve, his eyes wide. Why were you mad, Mommy? I softened, pulling him close. I'm not mad at you, sweetie. Just figuring stuff out. He nodded, trusting me, and I held him tighter, his heartbeat steady against mine. He was why I couldn't break, why I wouldn't. I stood, grabbing the notepad. New line, credit card, $3,000 debt. Dispute with bank. Then another. Call lawyer tomorrow, legal options? I didn't know how to pay one, but I'd find a way. Nils thought he could bury me in his mess, but I'd dig out. I opened the laptop again, pulling up the manuscript, my eyes burning as I typed. Every word was a brick, building a wall between us and his chaos. The doorbell rang, startling me. I peered through the peephole, Merrick, our landlord, his broad frame filling the doorway. I opened it, dread pooling in my gut. Hey, Merrick. Everything okay? He shifted, his hands in his pockets. Heard from a buddy at the bank, your husband's been cashing out. Just checking in. You still good for that extension? Yeah, I said, forcing confidence. I've got a week, right? He nodded, his eyes softening. Yeah. But Cam, if you need more time, say it. I'd rather work with you than evict you. Thanks, I said, my throat tight. I'll make it. He left, and I shut the door, leaning against it. A week. $1,012.63. A $3,000 debt. I looked at Milo, sprawled on the rug, his dinosaurs in a fierce battle. For him, I'd make it work somehow. I sat back down, the manuscript glowing on the screen. Nils thought he'd won, but he didn't know me, not this me, forged in his fire. I'd fight for Milo, for us, and he'd pay for every cent, every lie, every second he thought he'd broken me. The morning light was harsh, cutting through the blinds in jagged stripes across the kitchen table. Milo sat across from me, spooning cereal into his mouth, milk dripping onto his pajama shirt as he hummed a tune from his cartoons. I sipped my coffee, the mug cold in my hands, my eyes fixed on the notepad. $1012.63, a week's rent extension, a $3,000 credit card debt. The numbers danced in my head, a relentless rhythm of survival, but I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was fighting, and today I'd take the next step. I'd spent the night researching free legal aid, my laptop glowing into the early hours. Chicago had options, clinics, pro bono services, and I'd found one downtown, a nonprofit called Haven Legal. Their site promised help with family disputes, financial theft. I didn't have money for a lawyer, but I had evidence: Nils's email, the itinerary, the bank transfers, and a fire in my gut that wouldn't let me back down. I dialed their number as Milo finished his breakfast, my heart thudding with each ring. "Haven Legal, this is Freja," a woman answered, her voice calm and clipped. "Hi, I'm Cameron Berger," I said, pacing the kitchen, Milo's humming a faint backdrop. "I need help. My husband took our savings, $38,000, and moved to Spain. He's racking up debt on our card, lying to his family about me. I've got a son to support." Pause, then the sound of typing. "That's a lot," Freja said, her tone softening. "We can see you today. 11 a.m. Bring everything you've got. Bank records, emails, anything proving it's yours." "Thank you," I breathed, scribbling the address. "I'll be there." I hung up, a spark of hope flickering through the exhaustion. It wasn't a fix, but it was a start. A crack in Nils's armor I could pry open. I got Milo ready for preschool, his chatter about rocket ships filling the car as we drove. Dropping him off felt harder today, his small wave from the gate tugging at me. "See you later, Mommy," he called, and I nodded, my throat tight. He trusted me to keep his world steady, and I wouldn't fail him. Not now, not ever. The Haven Legal office was a narrow storefront downtown, its sign faded but the waiting room warm, with mismatched chairs and a coffee pot humming in the corner. Freja, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a graying bob, led me to a cramped office stacked with files. "Let's see what you've got," she said, settling behind a desk. I spread it out, the email to Ingrid with the fake texts, the Barcelona itinerary, the bank statement showing Nils's withdrawals, the insurance drop, the credit card charge. She scanned each one, her pen scratching notes, her brow furrowing deeper with every page. "He's thorough," she muttered. "But sloppy. Joint account means he had access, but this," she tapped the email, "this is fraud. And the debt? We can fight that. What can I do?" I asked, leaning forward. "I need that money back. For my son." Freja nodded, setting her pen down. "File for divorce, fast. Claim financial misconduct, request emergency support. We'll freeze what's left of his assets here, dispute the card charges. It's not quick, but it's a start. You've got a case, Cameron. Case." The words settled in me, heavy but empowering. "How long?" I asked. "Months, maybe," she said. "But we'll push for interim relief, get you something to live on. Bring me more if you find it." I left with a stack of forms and a number to call, my steps lighter despite the weight in my bag. On the bus home, I clutched the papers, my mind racing. Divorce. It was real now, a line I'd crossed to claw back what Nils had taken. For Milo, I'd do it. The phone buzzed as I stepped off, an unknown number, but the voicemail icon flared. I played it, my stomach sinking at the familiar voice. Nils's sister, Elin. "Cameron, it's me. Mom told me everything, how you've been harassing Nils, keeping Milo from him. I can't believe you'd stoop this low. He's broken up about it, says you're unhinged. Call me if you've got any decency left." I deleted it, my hand shaking. Another lie, another knife from his family. Elin had always been kinder than Ingrid, but she'd swallowed the story too, Nils's heartbroken act, my supposed cruelty. I wanted to scream, to call her back and shove the truth down her throat, but what was the point? They'd chosen their side, and it wasn't mine. At home, I sat at the kitchen table, the forms spread out like a map. I filled them out, my pen digging into the paper. Grounds for divorce, abandonment, financial theft. Each word was a brick, building a wall between me and Nils's chaos. Milo's laughter from preschool pickup echoed in my mind, his trust fueling me. I'd fight, for the money, for the truth, for him. The phone stayed silent, but I knew it wouldn't last. Nils was out there, spinning his web, thinking he'd won. But I was weaving one too, a net to catch him, to drag him back to face what he'd done. He'd see soon enough. I wasn't the weak link he'd left behind. The kitchen table was a war zone of papers, divorce forms, bank statements, Frage's scribbled notes, spread out like battle plans under the dim overhead light. Milo slept in his room. His soft snores a quiet rhythm that kept me grounded as I filled out the last of the Haven legal forms. My pen scratched across the page, each line a declaration. Abandonment. Financial misconduct. Emergency support. The words felt like armor, a shield I was forging for Milo and me against Nils's wreckage. It was past midnight, the apartment silent except for the hum of the fridge, when my phone buzzed, shattering the stillness. I glanced at the screen, an international number, Spain's country code glaring back at me. My heart stopped, then thudded hard. Nils. After days of silence, he was calling. I hesitated, my thumb hovering, the urge to ignore it warring with the need to hear his voice, to know why. I answered, my grip tight, my voice low. "What do you want?" "Tamarin," he said, his tone smooth, familiar, laced with that charm I'd once fallen for. "Finally. I wasn't sure you'd pick up." "Cut the crap, Nils," I snapped, standing to pace the kitchen, the cold floor biting at my bare feet. "You've got some nerve calling after what you did." A pause, then a sigh, dramatic, rehearsed. "I figured you'd be upset. Look, I didn't want it to go down like this, but you left me no choice." "No choice?" My laugh was sharp, cutting through the line. "You took our savings, $38,000, ran off with Sasha and left us with nothing. You're racking up debt in Barcelona while I'm scrambling to pay rent. And you're lying to your family, saying I'm the one keeping Milo from you. What the hell, Nils?" "You're twisting it," he said, his voice hardening. "I've been drowning here, Cam. You and your constant nagging, money, Milo, every little thing. Sasha gets me, gives me space. I need it out, and the savings? That's mine too, joint account, remember?" "Joint," I echoed, my anger boiling over. "For us, for Milo's future, not your Spanish getaway. And those texts you faked to Ingrid? I've got them, Nils. The email, the itinerary, the withdrawals. You're not as smart as you think." Silence, then a low chuckle. "You're digging, huh? Fine, play detective. But you won't win this. I'm gone, Cam. Move on. Milo's better off without your drama." "Drama?" I stepped closer to the counter, my voice dropping to a hiss. "You abandoned your son. You think you can just walk away, leave us broke, and pin it on me? I'm filing for divorce, financial misconduct, emergency support. I'll drag you back here if I have to." "Good luck with that," he said, smug now. "Spain's a long way off, and I've got lawyers too. You'll burn out before you get a dime. Tell Milo I'll call him when things settle. Don't you dare, I said, my hand shaking. You don't get to play dad when it suits you. He's asking where you are, and I'm lying to keep him from hurting. You've lost that, right? Whatever helps you sleep, he said, and the line went dead, leaving me staring at the phone, my chest heaving. His voice lingered, that casual cruelty slicing deeper than the text ever had. He wasn't sorry. He was proud, untouchable, betting I'd crumble. But he'd misjudged me. I sank into a chair, the forms blurring as tears stung my eyes. Not for him, but for Milo, for the life I'd thought we'd had. I wiped them away, grabbing the pen. I added a note. Nils called, admits taking money, threatens lawyers. Reported. Evidence piling up like bricks. He thought distance was his shield, but I'd find a way through. The phone buzzed again, a text from Elin, Nils' sister. Heard you're harassing him again. Leave him alone, Cam. He's happy now. I deleted it, my jaw tight. Another pawn in his game, another voice echoing his lies. I wouldn't waste breath on her, not yet. I stood, pacing to Milo's room, the door creaking as I peeked in. He slept sprawled across his bed, his dinosaur clutched tight, his face peaceful. I leaned against the frame, watching his chest rise and fall, the ache in my heart softening. He was why I'd fight, why I'd claw through this mess, no matter how long it took. Nils could run, but he couldn't hide forever. Back at the table, I opened my laptop, emailing Freja the update. Nils called, confirmed he took the money, threatened legal pushback. Filing tomorrow. I hit send, the clock ticking toward 1 a.m. Exhaustion pulled at me, but I didn't stop. I pulled up the manuscript, typing through the haze, every word a defiance, every edit a step toward keeping us afloat. Nils thought he'd broken me, but he'd lit a fire instead. I'd file, I'd fight, I'd win, for Milo, for the truth. He'd see soon enough, I was stronger than his lies, and I'd make him pay for every one. The Haven legal office smelled of stale coffee and ink, a faint comfort as I sat across from Freja. The divorce forms spread between us like a battlefield. Morning light slanted through the dusty window, catching the edges of the papers I'd spent the night perfecting, every line a weapon, every detail a strike against Nils. Freja's sharp eyes scanned my additions, the call from Nils, his smug admission, the mounting evidence of his theft. She nodded, her pen tapping the desk. This is solid, Cameron, she said. We'll file today, emergency support, asset freeze, the works. He won't like it. Good, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. Let him squirm. Milo was at preschool, his rocket ship drawing tucked in my bag, a reminder of why I was here, signing away 8 years for a chance at survival. Freja slid the final page toward me, the signature line blank and waiting. I gripped the pen, my name, Cameron Berger, flowing onto the paper in bold strokes. It was done. Not an end, but a beginning, a fight I'd started for us. Filing took an hour, the clerk's stamp a dull thud that echoed in my chest. Freja promised updates, court dates, motions, but warned me again. It's slow, Cameron. Weeks, maybe months. Hang on. I nodded, leaving with a copy of the papers, the weight of them grounding me as I stepped into the cold Chicago wind. I'd hung on this long, I could keep going. Back home, I checked the bank account, $1012.63, bolstered by Cotran's payment but still a whisper against the roar of rent. Marek's extension gave me 3 days now, a ticking clock I couldn't outrun. I opened my laptop, chasing more client payments, when an email from the bank popped up. Overdraft notice. Checking account minus $187.37. My stomach dropped. I clicked through, the electric bill $200 auto-debited this morning. Nils had always handled the timing, I'd forgotten to stop it. Now my fragile balance was gone, flipped negative, a $35 fee tacked on like salt in the wound. I slammed the laptop shut, my breath shallow. 3 days, no money, and a hole deepening by the hour. I called the bank, my voice shaking as I explained. Nils, the savings, the mess. The rep, a bored-sounding guy named Torin, was unmoved. Joint account, ma'am. Can't reverse it unless you dispute the bill itself. Takes 10 days. I hung up, my head in my hands, the apartment's silence mocking me. Nils's ghost was everywhere, pulling strings I couldn't cut. Milo's pickup time loomed, and I grabbed my coat, the divorce papers still in my bag. Preschool, he ran to me, his cheeks flushed, a paper crown crooked on his head. I'm king of the dinosaurs, he declared, and I laughed, the sound raw but real. King Milo, huh? Let's get you home, your majesty. In the car, he chattered about his day, oblivious to the overdraft, the rent, the war I was waging. I kept my answers light, my grip tight on the wheel, shielding him from the cracks. At home, I made dinner, mac and cheese from the pantry, the last of our staples. Milo ate happily, his crown slipping while I picked at mine, my mind racing. The phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Cam, it's Sasha. Nils says you're filing. Leave him alone, he's done with you. I stared at it, the audacity burning through me. Sasha, the woman he'd chosen, daring to step into my fight. I typed back, my fingers steady. Tell him to face me himself. He owes us $38,000 and more. I hit send, no hesitation, no fear. She replied instantly. You're pathetic. He's happy now. Move on. I deleted it, my jaw tight. Pathetic? I'd show them both. I opened the laptop, emailing Freja. Sasha texted, harassment from her now. Add it to the file. Every move they made was another nail in their coffin, and I'd hammer them all. Milo climbed into my lap, his crown falling. Mommy, why's your face mad? He asked, his small hand on my cheek. I softened, kissing his forehead. Just thinking, sweetie. How about a story? I read to him, Dinosaurs and Kings, his head heavy against me as he drifted off. I carried him to bed, tucking him in, the divorce papers a quiet weight in my bag. Back in the kitchen, I stared at the overdraft notice, the rent deadline, Sasha's text. Nils thought he'd buried me, but I was rising, slowly, painfully, but rising. I pulled up the manuscript, typing through the night, each word a defiance. 3 days. I'd find the money, file the disputes, fight the lies, for Milo, for me. Nils and Sasha could laugh in Spain, but I'd make them choke on it. The apartment was a cocoon of shadows, the only light the faint glow of my laptop screen as I hunched over the kitchen table. Milo slept in his room, his dinosaur crown discarded on the floor, his innocence a quiet fuel for the fire burning in me. The overdraft notice, $187.37, stared back from my bank account, a red stain on the $1,012.63 I'd clung to. Marek's rent extension had 2 days left, and I was drowning, the numbers a tide I couldn't outswim. But I wasn't done, not yet. I'd spent the morning chasing clients, my voice hoarse from calls. One, a publisher named Vigo, promised $400 by tomorrow, rush edits I'd begged for. Another, a slow-paying magazine, coughed up $250 after I'd threatened to pull my work. Total $650 if they came through. It wouldn't cover the $2,400 rent, but it'd dig me out of the hole, buy food, keep Milo's world steady. I emailed Marek, my fingers trembling. Working on it, can you take $650 tomorrow, rest by next week? His reply was curt but kind, fine. But next week's firm, Cam. A lifeline, thin but real. The divorce papers sat beside me, a signed promise of the fight ahead. Freja had texted. Filing was complete, emergency support in motion, but it'd take weeks to see a sent Nils's call, Sasha's text, the faked messages to Ingrid. They were all in the file, a growing arsenal. I'd fight him in court, claw back what he'd stolen, but survival came first. I pulled up the manuscript, typing through the blur. each word a brick, building a wall between us and his chaos. The phone buzzed, jolting me. Not Nils, not Sasha. An email from Elin, his sister, subject, Milo. My stomach twisted as I opened it. Cameron, Mom says you're keeping Milo from us. I want to see my nephew. Don't punish him for this. I'm in Chicago tomorrow. Meet me at noon, Grant Park. He deserves family. I stared at it, the words a fresh wound. Elin, softer than Ingrid but still blind to Nils's lies, now guilting me with Milo. I wanted to scream. He deserved a father who didn't abandon him, not a family buying his excuses. I typed back, my hands steady. Elin, Nils left us, took everything. I'm not keeping Milo from you. He's keeping himself away. Noon works. Bring the truth if you've got it. I hit send, my jaw tight. She'd see Milo, but I'd make her face the mess her brother had made. Not my fault, not my burden. Clock ticked toward 2 a.m., exhaustion pulling at me, but I kept going, editing, emailing, planning. The $3,000 credit card debt loomed, the bank's dispute process crawling. I called their fraud line again, Torin's bored voice replaced by a woman, Anika. Still processing, she said. Joint card complicates it, could be 30 days. I hung up, adding it to the notepad. Debt dispute, push harder? Every delay was a weight, but I'd carry it, for Milo. Morning came too fast, Milo's chatter pulling me from the table. I made oatmeal, the last bag stretched thin, and smiled as he ate, his rocket ship tails a bomb. Can Daddy see my rocket? He asked, his eyes bright. I faltered, the lie heavier each time. He's still away, sweetie, I said, brushing his hair. But I'll take a picture for him. He nodded, trusting me, and I snapped it. His grin, his creation, a moment Nils didn't deserve. Vigo's $400 hit mid-morning, the magazine's $250 following, $650 total, wired to Merrick. I texted him, money's sent. Thanks for the grace. His reply, got it. Hang in there. A breath, a small victory. I paid the overdraft, leaving $462.63, enough for groceries, gas, a sliver of hope. Ellen's meeting loomed, and I prepped Milo, his excitement at seeing Auntie Ellen tugging at me. At Grant Park, she waited by the fountain, tall, blonde, Nils's eyes in her face. She hugged Milo, her smile fading as she looked at me. He's okay, she asked, her tone edged. He's fine, I said, crossing my arms. No thanks to Nils. Did he tell you he took our savings? Left us broke? She frowned, shifting. He said you pushed him out, demanded money. I don't know, Cam, he's my brother. And Milo's my son, I shot back. Nils ran with Sasha, faked text to blame me. I've got proof, wanna see? I pulled my phone, the email to Ingrid ready, but she shook her head. I just want Milo, she said, her voice cracking. Not this fight. Then tell Nils to stop lying, I said, stepping closer. He's the one punishing him. She looked away and I took Milo's hand, ending it. She'd see or she wouldn't. I was done begging. Back home, I tucked Milo in for a nap, the park tiring him out. I sat with the laptop, the manuscript glowing, my fight sharper now. 2 days left, $462.63, a court date pending. Nils thought he'd crushed me, but I was standing, stronger, fiercer. I'd face him and he'd fall. The apartment hummed with the quiet of early evening, Milo's crayons scratching across paper as he drew a dinosaur army at the kitchen table. I stood by the stove, stirring a pot of spaghetti, the first real meal in days, paid for with the $462.63 I'd clung to after Marek's payment. The scent of tomato sauce filled the air, a small victory in a war I'd been fighting since Nils's text shattered our world. Rent was still a looming shadow, 1 day left on Marek's extension, but I'd carved out a foothold, fragile but mine. The laptop sat open beside me, glowing with an email from Freja. Court accepted the emergency motion, interim support hearing in 2 weeks. Nils notified. Keep documenting. A spark flared in my chest. Not the full $38,000, not yet, but a lifeline. If it went through, I'd get something, enough to breathe, to rebuild. I'd sent her Ellen's email, Sasha's text, every scrap of Nils's deceit, building a case that'd bury him. He'd run, but he couldn't hide, not from this. The phone buzzed, pulling me from the pot. An incoming call, Nils's number. My pulse spiked, but I answered, my voice steel. What now? Cameron, he said, his tone clipped, no charm left. Got your little court papers. You're really doing this? You left me no choice, I said, stirring the sauce, the spoon steady in my hand. You took everything, our savings, our stability. I'm taking it back. He laughed, sharp and bitter. You'll get nothing. I'm in Spain, good luck enforcing that here. Watch me, I said, stepping away from the stove, my voice low. I've got your emails, your call, your lies to Ingrid and Elin. Court knows you stole from us, Nils. Run all you want, your mess follows you. Silence, then a hiss. You're delusional. Sasha and I are fine, you're the one scrambling. Give it up, Cam. No, I said, my grip tightening. You gave up on Milo on me. I'm done letting you win. Tell Sasha to enjoy her free ride, it's ending soon. He hung up, the click a hollow echo, but I didn't flinch. His bluster was cracking, I'd heard it in his voice. I set the phone down, turning back to the spaghetti, the steam rising like my resolve. He thought distance was his shield, but I'd pierce it for Milo, for the truth. The doorbell rang and I tensed, Merrick may be checking in. But it was Elin, her face pale, Milo's rocket drawing in her hand. He gave this to me yesterday, she said, stepping inside as I waved her in. I talked to Mom. She's still on Nils's side, but I'm not sure anymore. Crossed my arms, wary. What changed? He called me today, she said, her voice soft. Ranting about you, the court. He sounded off. Not like my brother. I saw your proof, the email. Is it true? Yes, I said, meeting her gaze. He took $38,000, fake text to blame me, left us broke. Believe me or not, that's on you. She nodded, tears brimming. I want to see Milo, Cam. Not to fight, just to be his aunt. Fine, I said, softening slightly. But no more lies. He deserves better. She agreed, sitting with Milo as he showed her his dinosaurs, her laughter tentative but real. I watched, the knot in my chest easing. Not forgiveness, but a truce for him. After she left, I called Merrick, my voice firm. I've got $1,800 from edits by tomorrow. Can you take it, give me another week for the rest? He sighed then, yeah, Cam. You're tough, I'll work with you. Relief flooded me, rent half paid, a roof still ours. Dinner was quiet, Milo slurping noodles, his grin sauce-stained. Is Daddy coming back? He asked, the question softer now like he sensed the shift. I knelt beside him, honest this time. No, sweetie. It's just us now. But we're strong, right? He nodded, hugging me, his trust my anchor. Later, I tucked him in, the divorce papers await in my bag. I sat with the laptop emailing Freja. Nils called, threatened again. Ellen's wavering. Push harder. Then I worked, edits, invoices, a future. Rent was close, support pending, Nils cornered. He'd thought I'd break, but I'd risen, steel forged in his fire. The city glittered outside, a new dawn waiting. I'd fight on, for Milo, for me, and Nils would face the reckoning he'd earned. We were free, not whole, but healing. And that was enough.